Disneyland is often referred to as the happiest place on Earth, and I would totally agree with that if it wasn't for the extreme waiting game for each ride and screaming children. Despite that though, it truly is a magical place and you can't help but feel nostalgia when you're there. From abandoned rides that could have been special but weren't, to whole parks that were left to rot and more, here are 10 abandoned Disney projects. Number 10, Fire Mountain. If you've spent a day in a Disney amusement park, then you've more than likely been on one of their many rides with the word mountain in its name. These are some of the most enjoyed thrills in the park, from Space Mountain to Splash Mountain. And in the 90s, we almost had another one added to the list in the Adventureland area of the park, known as Fire Mountain. It was going to be a thrilling new roller coaster taking place in an active volcano, and it would take its riders from Splash Mountain to the beloved Pirates of the Caribbean. Fire Mountain would be based on the upcoming, at the time, Disney film Atlantis: The Lost Empire. The story takes place in 1916, when Preston Whitmore would focus on trying to make Atlantis' existence public and offer expeditions to visitors to explore it in newly developed vehicles. However, due to mishaps, the vehicles would be forced to make a detour through the lava-filled caverns of the volcano. The attraction would use a unique hybrid ride system. While the attraction would start as a standard coaster, the trains would hook up to a suspended track midway through to fly through the caverns. So you might be thinking, why was this shut down? There were two reasons. The first was that despite the film having a deep story and an all-star voice cast, including Michael J. Fox, the film didn't do so hot at the box office. It would later become a cult classic of Disney films. But Disney wasn't going to waste time and money for a ride that highlighted a non-box office hit. Plus, the ride was also intended to rival the Islands of Adventure from nearby Universal Studios. But that was shut down after they felt those islands had no threat to Disney. So thus, the whole project was canceled, and a potentially very unique ride for Disney's Adventureland never came to be. Such is life. Number 9, The Nightmare Before Christmas. I am actually super sad this project was never completed. This is one of my favorite movies. You can watch it on Halloween, you can watch it on Christmas, you can basically watch it all year round and still love it. I don't think I'm alone in this. It would have been an excellent addition to Disney parks. I move we start a petition to get this one up and running. Who's with me? The use of both Tim Burton at his peak creating mindset and the stop-motion animation delivered a haunting yet really fun story that is still discussed to this day. It was supposed to be built by another nightmarish ride, It's a Small World. Seriously, I think we can all agree that ride is a classic horror. Disney World's intent was to make a full-on Nightmare Before Christmas ride where people would go and ride in a flying coffin to go and help the one and only Jack Skellington save Christmas from the Oogie Boogie Man. However, despite many concepts for the ride being made, the ride as a whole was eventually scrapped. Now you might be thinking, but wait a minute, there is a ride at Disney World about the Nightmare Before Christmas, right? Well, yes and no. There's no dedicated ride for it. However, in the seasonal times, they decorate the Haunted Mansion both inside and out to make it Nightmare Before Christmas themed. So they give us a piece, but we still want the whole pie. Give the people what they want, Disney. I guess it's just a gift you'll have to ask Sandy Claus for. Number 8, the original Pop Century Resort. The original idea for the Pop Century Resort was divided into two sections, the classic years and the legendary years, and a bridge named the Generation Gap would allow visitors to go to either side. Interesting concept. The classic years would have buildings representing the 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, while the legendary years would have buildings representing the first half of the century, the 1900s, 1910s, 20s, 30s, and 40s. It was going to be telling the tale of 100 years of Disney life between the two sides. Kind of clever, I guess. So what exactly happened? Well, both of the sections were being built at the same time, with the classic years section being finished first, and both sides slated to open in 2001. But then 9/11 happened, and attendance to Disney World literally plummeted, so they delayed opening until 2003, but only opened the classic years portion. Work was supposed to continue for the legendary years side of the resort, but eventually they just decided to rebuild and rebrand it in 2010 as Disney's Art of Animation Resort. However, the original buildings designed for the legendary year side of the Pop Century Resort still stand, though nothing is going on over there. Or is there? So while this was a very ambitious and rather clever idea from Disney, timing truly held it back from its fruition. Hey, real fast, if you're new to the channel, welcome. Thanks for checking us out. Give this video a like and make sure to subscribe for more videos like these. Number 7. Food rocks. Have you ever been to a place that had animatronics singing you a song while staring into your soul? It's just weird and creepy. You might be thinking of Chuck E. Cheese, but Disney had an idea for one too. It was called Food Rocks. Food does rock, right? This very unique show was made for Epcot and opened in 1994. The intention of the show was pretty simple. The animatronics were going to be based on food items and yet have some human features to them, like appendages and facial hair. The works. Super creepy. And they would sing parodies of classic songs. Okay, why? Well, it was because Disney, being Disney, wanted to teach kids about the importance of eating healthy food, even going so far as to make this food band have a rival band called The Excess, which was all the foods you were not supposed to eat. Yeah, this isn't what you're supposed to be enjoying when you're going to Disney World. Just saying. Anyway, the show was shut down a decade later and replaced with a flight simulator ride. However, they didn't deconstruct the stage and they just built around it, and the ghost of the animatronic food items are still there. They have truly been abandoned. So much for teaching kids about healthy food. Don't worry, you can still get a $50 churro. Number 6. The Beastly Kingdom. Without a doubt, one of the most popular aspects of Disney World is that of the Animal Kingdom, punctuated by the legendary Tree of Life. Disney's Animal Kingdom is a theme park devoted to wildlife and the beauty and wonders of the natural world. But have you ever wondered why there's a dragon on the Animal Kingdom logo? Once upon a time, the Animal Kingdom was set to be something very different. It was supposed to have sections focusing on different kinds of animals, real, extinct, and imaginary. Enter the Beastly Kingdom, which was where people would go to experience all the imaginary and mythological creatures. 2 realms, good and evil. One side, a majestic unicorn welcomed all to the land, while the dark and terrifying dragon lived on the other side, within the ruins of a burning castle. The unicorn's kingdom would have had a Fantasia-inspired boat ride, cool, an enchanted hedge maze to go get lost in, and a Loch Ness-themed restaurant. The dragon's realm would include a charred castle, complete with a giant, terrifying dragon, treasure troves, and what would have been Disney's first inverted roller coaster. The dragon was said to be the largest animatronic dragon in history, and of course, it would have breathed fire. So you might be wondering, just like I did, why wasn't this made? It sounds super awesome. Sadly, the big reason was budget cuts and shifts in management. The then CEO had to make a choice between Dino Land and this mythical fantasy land. I think he made the wrong choice. Legend has it, the Imagineers who were in charge of Disney's Beastly Kingdom project took their plans to Universal's island of adventure for their lost continent. What was supposed to be the Dragon's Tower at Animal Kingdom ultimately became Dueling Dragons before Harry Potter moved in. You can definitely see the similarities. But hopefully Disney will revisit this idea, because honestly, I think they were looking at a home run here. Number 5. Walt Disney's Riverfront Square. Tell me, how well do you know the history of Disney's parks? Because you might say that Disneyland came first, and then after its success came Disney World, right? Wrong. Because after the success of Disneyland, Walt Disney didn't look towards the other end of the country. Rather, he looked right into the middle of it, specifically St. Louis in Missouri. He wanted to make his second park there and call it Walt Disney's Riverfront Square. Now, you might be scratching your head as to the location, but there's a reason. It's where Disney grew up. So obviously, he had a great connection there, and given the riverfront location, it probably would have been a success. The entrance of the park would have been similar to Main Street USA, but one side of the street would have been called Old St. Louis, and the other based on Old New Orleans. Some of the classic Disney attractions that were meant for the park were the Pirates of the Caribbean, Haunted Mansion, and the Western Riverboat Ride, later changed into Big Thunder Mountain Railroad. So, what happened? Well, by 1965, cracks in the plan were forming, and so Disney canceled the plans and moved them to Florida, where Disney World would be born. And it's been doing pretty well there, so maybe it worked out for the best. Number 4, the People Mover. This one might surprise you because it's honestly a very simple ride that just got abandoned, and not for the reasons you're thinking. The original People Mover ride was a set of train carts that would circle around Tomorrowland at Disneyland all the way back in 1967. The trains were not powered by motors within themselves. Rather, they were pushed by rotating tires embedded in the track every 9 feet, each of which had its own electric motor. Each car had a speaker that would relay various information about the park as they traveled in a grand circle tour of the area. The problem, though, was that the ride wasn't built in the safest way, and just 1 month after the ride opening, someone died. A 16-year-old boy fell onto the track, and oncoming trains literally ran him over and dragged him a few hundred feet. Talk about a publicity nightmare. Plus, that wasn't the only death the ride caused. Also hard to find that information online due to the billions of dollars Disney has to create and cover up. You'd think that this would be the reason it got shut down, but you would be wrong. The ride was actually abandoned because it was deemed too old school, so it was replaced with the short-lived Rocket Rods. There are, of course, train rides like these at other Disney parks, and the tracks of the original People Mover are still there at Disneyland collecting dust. I wonder if it's haunted. Hey, maybe they should roll with it and create a ride around it. Is that wrong to say? Sorry. Number 3, Cranium Command. This honestly was less of a ride and more of an experience adventure. It was, I guess, humorous and educational, a presentation of the importance of the human brain and its relationship to the body. Cranium Command, as it was called, would have you going inside the mind of a 12-year-old boy and helping a soldier, who just happened to be in his mind already, complete a mission. Yeah, sounds pretty awful. You would be called a Cranium Commando. What's more, you'd be watching the story unfold through the eyes of the boy himself through monitors. The experience took place in a theater, and you'd have to help the boy stay out of trouble. The ride was already weird to start when it debuted in 1989, but by 2004, it was only doing seasonal shows, and by 2007, it had shut down because of lack of funding. Number 2, Discovery Island. Discovery Island was an island located within the property of Disney World. It was open through the 70s to the 90s. The island could only be accessed from a Disney resort boat or a Walt Disney World cruise. Originally, it was called Treasure Island, a magical jungle getaway, basically a zoo, where you could go see wildlife like monkeys, flamingos, reptiles, and more. Eventually, it would be called Discovery Island, but after a while, things got pretty bad. They were accused of harming vultures that came to the island naturally. While the charges were eventually dropped, the island was shut down and abandoned, and the animals that did live there were moved to the animal kingdom. Funnily enough, during the pandemic, a man went there without knowing it was closed to the public. He said it was a tropical paradise, and he was arrested. Number 1, River Country. Disney has done a lot to expand their amusement parks over the years, and in 1976, they decided to create their first water park. It was called River Country, and the theme was hillbillies. One of their advertisements says, "River Country is the cur-splashingest, kid-laughingest, slippery slidingest, raft ridingest, rope swingingest, swan divingest, summer swimmingest, sun snoozingest, picnickingest, old-fashioned, good, clean, wet American fun you've ever had." Whoa, that was a lot. Another one is "Bring a swimsuit and a smile. You're likely to wear both out at River Country." While it was popular for a time, there were various tragedies that led to it being abandoned. A young boy got a bacterial infection from the water that essentially attacked the boy's brain and nervous system, and he died. You'd think they would start shutting down River Country after that, but no. A second death happened when another young boy drowned coming off a water slide. More safety measures should have been put in to prevent these horrific happenings, but they weren't, and a couple years later, another boy drowned. It closed shortly after 9/11, but a lot of it is still there. Urban explorers that check it out say that it's haunted, and I believe it. You can see more of this ride in another one of Planet Explain's videos, Abandoned Amusement Parks. Thanks for watching! What did you think of these abandoned Disney projects? Let me know in the comments below. Be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Bye!